They organized Thanksgiving without me. And declared Dad can eat alone. He always does anyway. I prepared nothing. When they arrived starving, the house was dark. I was already 3 states away. What unfolded next stunned the entire family. Family story. I heard the whole conversation through the kitchen vent while I was standing in the garage changing the oil in my old truck. My daughter Brooke was on speakerphone with her brother Grant, and they were not even trying to keep their voices down. Brooke said it first. Dad can eat alone. He always does anyway. Grant laughed a little and answered, yeah, he likes his quiet. We'll just do it at my place this year. Kids can run around, no stress. Brooke added that she had already told the cousins and her mother-in-law. Nobody mentioned inviting me. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood there listening until the call ended. Then I walked back inside, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the calendar still hanging on the wall from last year. Thanksgiving was 8 days away. I had already bought the turkey. It was in the freezer. I had already ordered the extra folding chairs from the storage place down the road. I had even written a grocery list in the same blue pen I use for everything. That night I took the turkey out of the freezer and set it on the counter to thaw like nothing had changed. The next morning I put it back. I canceled the chairs. I threw the grocery list in the trash. I did not cook a single thing. The house stayed quiet. I kept the porch light off after dark. I stopped answering texts that were not about the kids' school schedules or the HOA notice that came in the mail about the fence height. Brooke sent a short message 2 days before the holiday. Just confirming you're good on your own Thursday. Grant's place is packed. I typed back one word. Fine. Early Thursday morning I packed a duffel bag with 2 changes of clothes, my old thermos, and the small notebook I keep in the glove box. I left the house at 5:15 while it was still dark. I did not leave a note. I locked the door, backed the truck out, and headed south on the interstate. By the time the sun came up I had already crossed the state line. By noon I was 2 states away. By late afternoon I pulled into a cheap motel outside a town I had never heard of, 3 full states from the house where my kids expected me to be sitting alone with a frozen dinner. I paid cash for 2 nights. The room smelled like old carpet and bleach. I sat on the edge of the bed and turned my phone on for the first time since morning. There were 14 missed calls. 9 from Brooke. 3 from Grant. 2 from my sister-in-law. The texts started polite and turned sharp. Where are you? The house is dark. Are you okay? Dad, answer the phone. We brought food over. Nobody's home. This isn't funny. I read them all and put the phone face down on the nightstand. I walked to the diner across the parking lot and ordered meatloaf and coffee. The waitress called me honey and refilled the cup without asking. I ate slowly and watched a family of 5 at the corner table pass dishes around and argue over the last roll. Nobody at that table looked at a phone once. Back in the room I finally answered Brooke's latest call. Her voice was tight. Where the hell are you? 3 states away, I said. What does that mean? It means I left. The house is empty. The kitchen is empty. I didn't cook. There was a long silence. Then she said, we thought you'd be home. We brought the kids. They wanted to see you. You planned the day without me, I told her. You said I could eat alone because I always do. So I did. Just somewhere else. Grant's voice came on the line next. He must have been standing right beside her. This is ridiculous. Come home. The kids are asking for you. I'll be back when I'm ready. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. That night I slept harder than I had in months. No porch light to leave on. No expectation that someone might still knock. In the morning I bought a paper map at the gas station because I did not want the phone tracking me, and I drove farther south until I found a small state park with a lake and a handful of picnic tables. I sat at one of them with a sandwich and watched a couple of older men fishing from the bank. One of them nodded at me. I nodded back. That was the entire conversation. Around 3 in the afternoon my phone buzzed with a message from a number I did not recognize. It was my grandson, Ethan, using his mother's phone. The text was short. "Grandpa, are you mad at us?" I stared at those 5 words for a long time. Then I typed back, "Never at you." He answered right away. "Mom is crying. Uncle Grant is yelling at the wall. Can you come home?" I did not answer that one. I stayed at the motel a second night. The next morning I drove to a hardware store in the next town and bought a small bag of birdseed and a cheap thermos that did not leak. I spent the afternoon walking the trails around the lake. My knees hurt the way they always do in November, but the air was clean and nobody needed anything from me. Late that evening the phone rang again. This time it was Brooke, and her voice was different. Quieter. "Dad. We messed up." I waited. "The kids asked why you weren't at Grant's. We told them you wanted to stay home. Then we went by the house and the lights were off and the driveway was empty and Ethan started asking if you were gone for good. Grant tried to make it a joke. It didn't work. Mom's sister called me and said she heard what we said about you eating alone. She said it was cruel. I didn't think it was cruel until I heard it out loud from someone else. I still did not speak. Where are you really? She asked. Doesn't matter. Can you come back? Not tonight. Whenever you're ready. We'll do Thanksgiving next weekend. Properly. At your house if you want. Or anywhere. Just, please. I looked at the motel wall and the thin curtain and the parking lot lights. I'll think about it. I hung up and turned the phone off again. The third morning I checked out and started the long drive north. I did not rush. I stopped at a rest area and ate a cold sandwich from a cooler I had bought the day before. I watched a father help his little girl wash her hands at the outdoor sink. She kept talking the whole time and he kept answering like every word mattered. When I finally pulled into my own driveway, the porch light was on. Someone had left it burning. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the kitchen table was set for 6. There was a store-bought pie on the counter and a note in Brooke's handwriting that simply said, "We're sorry. Call when you're ready." I put my duffel bag down and walked through every room. Nothing was missing. Nothing had been moved. The turkey was still in the freezer where I had put it back 8 days earlier. I turned the porch light off myself. Then I sat at the table and waited. They showed up just after dark. Brooke came in first with Ethan and his little sister. Grant followed with his wife. Nobody spoke right away. Ethan ran over and hugged my legs the way he always does. I put my hand on the back of his head and kept it there. Brooke's eyes were red. She said, "We brought dinner. It's not much. Just what we could put together." I nodded once. Sat it down. We ate in near silence. The kids asked ordinary questions about the lake and the motel and whether the birds ate the seed I bought. I answered them. Grant tried to apologize twice and I let him finish both times without interrupting. Brooke kept looking at the empty chair at the end of the table like she was seeing it for the first time. When the plates were cleared, Ethan climbed into my lap and fell asleep with his head against my chest. The adults sat there watching him breathe. Nobody reached for a phone. Nobody talked about next year or whose turn it was or how things used to be. After a long while, Brooke whispered, "We really thought you wouldn't care." I looked at my grandson's face and then at hers. I cared enough to leave. That was all I said. The house stayed quiet for the rest of the night. Outside, the suburban street was dark except for the one porch light I had turned off myself. Inside, for the first time in a long time, nobody assumed I would simply be there whenever they decided to show up.